Plus, I only have enough time for like 20 minutes, I think.
Gotcha.
4, 3, 2, 1.
Hi, I'm Craig Zobel, the writer and director of Compliance.
Okay, can you tell us a little bit about Compliance and what it's about?
Compliance is a thriller that is inspired by true events. These cases that happened 70 times over like a 10-year period in different states. But it's basically, the story takes place at a fast food restaurant on a busy Friday night when a manager gets a phone call from a police officer saying that one of the employees of the fast food restaurant stole some money from a customer in the restaurant, and that they need to be searched and questioned. And so the police officer says, look, I'm not going to be able to get down there right away, and until I get there, to the manager, could you kind of help me and help do this for me? And really that ends up leading to like some very dark and crazy things. And of course, like, it really isn't a police officer, it was sort of a hoax phone call.
And this is based on a true story. So,
Right.
So when you say that, does that kind of alleviate some of the, I don't want to say responsibility, but like, because when you're watching
No,
it,
I understand the question. It's funny, like I would hope that the reasons that I wanted to make this film had to do with me feeling in some ways that I could identify with the type of behavior that was going on, even if it was like completely bizarre. For me it was a process of hearing the story, saying I would never do that ever, not me, and then sort of wondering why it had such a strong reaction, why I personally had such a strong reaction like that, and that if I had that strong a reaction, was I trying to kind of avoid something?
Yeah, because when you watch it, in the first 20 minutes, I'm sitting there going, part of me wanted to kind of like turn it off because I'm like, no way, it's just real. But you keep stressing, it's real. So I'm like, let's see where this goes. And it just keeps going. So I'm kind of wondering, how far did you take it out of like reality into filmmaking? But then I watched the ABC documentary about it, actually right before we walked in, because we were joking about me doing my research right before I walked in here. But ABC actually did a piece on this, and it's pretty much exactly how you filmed it.
A lot of people had talked about these experiences. Like by the time that I came along, there's also, you know, longer form documentaries about it, and multiple different news outlets had followed it, and sort of all the journalism had kind of happened. And for me, I felt like, you know, that story was told in a way, but what made me interested and kept me coming back was literally my own personal reaction, which was this reaction of immediately distancing myself and saying I would never do this, and then kind of having to struggle with the fact that there's some condescension in that.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And that it's like,
because you're watching it and you're like, come on, don't you people watch at least Law and Order? Actually, like, I found it kind of ironic that you actually had Ann Dowd in there, because I looked up her credit, because she's like a lot of Law and Orders. She's been a lot of Law and Orders in the past. But I'm like, don't you watch Law and Order or anything to know that a cop probably wouldn't call you on the phone for something like that?
But it's funny because like that assumes that Law and Order has like
that Law and Order is real,
an accurate portrayal of what goes on even with cops, you know. I mean, which is funny in its own way. But it's also just one of those things where it's like, right, if you it's totally right to have that feeling. It's also like, is that fully honest? Like, this happened all these different times, 70 times over a 10-year period. So like, if that's the case, then how is it possible that like everyone in that is like the people that were, you know, clueless in some way, and that like everyone who kind of encounters the story, and I really do believe that everyone who encounters the story has the reaction of like, that wouldn't be me though.
Right. Exactly. Like,
And
that's them.
there's a gap there, right, between those two
Yeah.
things. And that's what I think the movie's about. Is the movie's about asking him questions about that.
And my one question that I kept asking myself while watching is, do you think there's something in the psychology of like a fast food manager that would lead her to be so much more acceptable to just blindly taking orders?
You know, I think this could happen in many different settings.
Mm-hmm.
I genuinely do. I do believe that. I think it's interesting to have it be in a fast food restaurant, partly because I used to work in a fast food restaurant. And
I got my start at Wendy's.
Yeah, TCBY was mine. So yogurt
Oh,
was my thing.
you had a classy one. I had.
I don't know how classy. I don't know how classy TCBY was. Anyway, like
I could tell you stories about the taco shop.
I believe you, yeah, and I could tell you stories about the sprinkles.
Oh, okay.
You know, I think that there's something in that culture that's very much about making the experience the same no matter where you go.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you go to this Wendy's or this TCBY, it's supposed to be the same and the same experience as if you go to the one that's like literally 5 states away.
Right.
Like you're supposed to have this like continuity of brand experience, you know?
Right.
And that only happens if you really have people be in line and like don't have any sort of individuality in between Texas and Ohio and California and all of the different places that Wendy's is, you know what I mean? Like it has to feel like anytime you go in there you feel like you're home. You're in the same experience, you know? And I think that is definitely something that contributes to this, you know? That culture.
Now, what is it about this material that made you really want to live with it for so long? Because how long did it take you to shoot this movie?
It's been about a 2-year experience. Well, you know, it's funny. It's been hard. It's been hard. I think I wanted to do it because I found that it wasn't a black and white issue. There was a lot of like nuance and kind of different questions to be asked, and hopefully.
Which is what would you do in that situation? Which is always
what would you do? Yeah,
great question to ask an audience.
Yeah, well, right, yeah. So I felt like it was important to make the movie, but I was also a bit scared. I mean, it's a challenging movie. It's a challenging movie to make, you know. But I kind of felt like, what am I doing if I'm not like challenging myself?
and before I turned the camera on, we got into a whole discussion about message boards and how polarizing this film is. So why do you think it's so polarizing to people?
I think that the message board culture is a very unique culture, I would say.
Don't say unique. Call it what it is. It's filled with crazy people. Crazy kids who just want to vent.
It's true. Well, what it is, it's very much a like kind of hurling your opinion and running away, right? And like running to the next like article or the next whatever, the next click, you know? And there's not, I guess that's sort of the opposite of what I hoped to be doing with the movie, because the movie is not something that you can just have a strong opinion of and know what it is and move on. It's nuanced, and there's like different ways to read it.
It actually really is, and the weird thing is once again, I think critics are totally different than the mainstream audience, because mainstream audience seem polarized down the middle. They either love it or hate it, and it seems evenly split. So like, I made the mistake of reading the message boards, and it seems pretty evenly split. Like some are like. And it comes from the condescension that you mentioned earlier, but
wait,
the movie
explain
does
that a little bit more. What do you mean?
Meaning that the people who really hate it for one or two reasons. One, they think it goes too far in terms of the graphic nature of it, but I actually thought you handled that surprisingly tastefully.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
And then the other, and I want to talk to you about that in a minute. But and then the extreme is condescension, where it's like these people are just too freaking stupid. No way would I do that, as you said.
Right. Right, and I guess the disappointing thing about message boards is that they tend to kind of always go to extremes. There's
exactly.
It's like there's on and off, and there's not.
It's never any like a happy medium. Like, hey, really, this is great, but.
And it is kind of it is sort of when you make something that's you hope is going to start debate. You hope that will be actually a continued discussion instead of like a kind of like lobby your opinions and run away. But honestly, I don't read the message boards for it, so I don't really know. It's safer for my ego.
I'm trying to get to that point because I get so many hate emails. I've gotten to the point where I'm able to post and not read the comments or Rotten Tomatoes or even on our own site. But the problem is when you start going to your own site and it comes to your email box, and then it's kind of like...
You have a bit of a different job than me in that it's like, it is interactive with the audience in
I don't want
that
to be
way.
interactive. I want to be like a message board poster. I just want to post and run. That's it. I don't want to get an angry email from you or anyone else.
Well, you won't get one from me, so it's fine.
But can you talk a little bit about as people always say, most critics are hidden filmmakers, and I have a dream of one day making a film. So I always love talking to filmmakers about what their process is.
Yeah.
So what is your writing process like? Like how long did it take you to write this script, and how long did it take you to get it made, and what was that journey like for you?
The script for this one was actually faster than I mean. I kind of feel like I'm a fast writer, but my definition of fast, like, and